Hey guys, I'm back. Alright, now I got my green ham. It's all cured up. It's ready to rock. Here's what I'm going to do. I got to weigh this thing now because the way we season it, I'm going to use some pink salt, some curing salt. Some guys do, some guys don't. I figure, you know, I know that I'm more the old school, like they've been doing this for thousands of years and it'll all be fine, but people have also been dying at 25 years old for thousands of years because they're eating stuff like this that's not right. So we're gonna use we're gonna use the curing salt just because I think it protects from botulism and some things like that can't go wrong here. All right, but the first thing we gotta do is weigh this. That'll tell me how long to salt it, to keep it on the salt, and that'll tell me how much Instacure I need to use. Also, if I record the weight right now, the trimmed weight, but right before I hang it, it'll also tell me when the prosciutto has lost enough weight to be considered done. Because we want this to lose at least 30% of its weight by the time we finish it up. All right, so let's get this scale. You've seen it before if you watch my videos. It goes up to 150 pounds. All right, so let's see. Yeah, we got 20.5 pounds of trimmed weight. Okay, or 9.3 kilos. All right, so I'm going to keep it on salt 1 day for every kilo. So I'm going to keep this on salt for 10 days. Go a little bit over if it's 9.3 pounds, then I want to do it 9 days. Won't be cured all the way. So do 10 days. And where it is 20.5 pounds, we use 1 level teaspoon of this per 5 pounds of meat. So I'm going to use 4 level teaspoons. I'm going to drop it back again. Use a little less than a little more because this stuff can kill you if you eat enough of it. All right, so I got my container here. I'm going to use, let me just move this out of the way. I'm going to use, I'll wash that with alcohol before I put anything else in it. Put the other one on it, I should say. Don't cross-contaminate anything. I got my bin. This is what I'm going to cure it in. Well, I got a 55-pound bag of Mediterranean sea salt I bought. I'm going to sprinkle a couple of good handfuls in the bottom. I want a couple of inches in the bottom of this container. I want this thing sitting on salt. I don't want it touching the container if I don't have to. Yeah. Now this I bought from the Salt Works. It's a company, go online. I bought a 55-pound bag, and with the shipping, it was like 63 bucks. They specialize in specialty salts. This is actually Mediterranean sea salt. It's salt from the Mediterranean, just like it sounds. And it was salt water that was dehydrated and made into salt, sea salt. Let's see, I need a container. All right. So I'm going to mix up my pink salts now. Probably going to need a bigger container. I vacuum seal these so that everything stays fresh. That's all I'm going to use. That's enough to do this whole 20 pounds of meat, probably plus. I know about 4 ounces of this is enough to cure 100 pounds of meat. So it goes a long, long way with this stuff. Again, I think you should use it. You can use it. You don't have to. It's up to you. But me, I use it. I figure, what do you got to lose? So now I need about 1 kilogram of salt. That's about 2.5 pounds. And again, not really any big idea or anything. It's just use enough just to get it done. That's about right there. All right. And I'm going to mix my pink salt in with that. And you want to make sure this is mixed in really good. And again, I know most of you already know this, but this pink salt is not pink Himalayan salt. So don't think that the pink Himalayan salt is the same thing. It's not. So this is sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate, depends upon what cure you got. And it is dyed pink because if you ingest that stuff straight, it can kill you. So like if a little kid got a hold of it and ate like an ounce of it, it'd kill him. So you want to make sure you keep that stuff labeled and out of the hands of kids. All right, so now we're going to take my container. And for the moment, I'm just going to throw my ham in there. I'm going to put it skin side down for now because I just want to, put salt on this skin, and it's not enough just to cover the skin. You have to actually rub the salt into this, and it'll force it into the pores in the skin. You want to actually rub it right in there. Give it a good couple of good handfuls of salt. Don't be afraid to use the salt. Because really, that's all we're doing is salting this thing for now. All right. Now, remember I was saying I made holes in this hock? Well, this is what it's for. Load them right up. I mean, stuff it with that salt mix. Force it right down in there. You want to get 5-6 tablespoons of salt in and around that hock. Because what's going to happen is that's going to be the salt that travels down along the bone and keeps this thing from going south on you. Like I said, if you're going to lose it, it's going to be right at this bone, right at this joint. So if you know this is going to be a tough spot, get enough salt in there to begin with. Well, don't wash it out later. It's just for the curing. Now I'm going to flip it over. And you can see this process isn't light on the salt. Rub it right into the skin, rub it in everywhere. Force it right into the cracks, force it into the meat, especially around this bone. Force all the salt in around that bone. I'm using all of it. What this salt is going to do is going to pull the moisture out of this. And I know people look going, oh my God, look at the salt. You know something? That's what's going to cure the meat. I want this whole thing caked in salt. And basically, that's all your prosciutto is. And you notice all the salt I'm packing around this ball joint here. Because that's where, like I said, that bone that runs right through here, that's where it's going to go bad, is along that bone. So get enough salt around that joint. And it'll actually, as it starts to pull the liquid, the salt will travel down along that bone. And if you notice, the salt is actually starting to get wet already. You'll look at it. It's starting to cake up already. That's starting to pull moisture out of this thing already. What I'm doing is I'm just packing the salt up around this thing. Now I'm going to leave this for about 5 days. Then I'm going to take it out. I'm going to knock all the salt off it. And I'm going to re-salt it again in about 5 days. Hopefully, I'll remember to do a video. And I'll show you what it looks like in 5 days. Again, we don't want this thing touching the sides of the container. If it's touching the sides of the container, make sure there's salt packed in there so that it's touching the salt and not the container. Because, again, the container ain't going to help us cure this thing. If the container's touching it, the salt can't get to it, then what's going to happen? Bacteria are going to grow. So, anywhere where the ham is touching the container, it's got to be on salt. That's why we put salt down in the bottom, so that it's not sitting right against the container. All right. So that's the prosciutto, the first step. Get everything packed in there, looks good. I think we got enough salt on it. And if you notice, I don't know if you've seen it, but I packed this, look here, look. I packed this up underneath the prosciutto. I packed it all up underneath the sides until the salt was pushing out the top on both sides. So that, again, this ham isn't touching the plastic. All it is touching the salt. All right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my country ham. I'm going to actually set the container. I got another container just like this. I'm going to set that container right on top of this ham. That'll press this ham down. It'll squeeze it and it will flatten it out. Like give it prosciutto, the typical prosciutto shape. So I'm going to put one container right on top of the other. All right? Now I'll come back when I do the recipe for the country ham. And we'll start there. All right? I'll see you in a little bit. All right, guys. We're ready to do country ham. All right? Now that ham right there is 23 pounds. It's almost 24. What I got here is a couple of cups of salt, a cup of brown sugar, mixed really well together. That's what I'm going to use as my cure. To that, I added 4 level teaspoons of curing salt, of Instacure #1. In my mortar and pestle here, I have about 4 tablespoons of juniper berries, about 8 bay leaves, half a dozen tablespoons, 6 tablespoons of black peppercorns. I have 2 tablespoons of granulated garlic. I have 2 tablespoons of rosemary. And I have 3 tablespoons of cloves, whole cloves that I've ground up. And I've mashed everything together in my mortar pedestal here. Put all that in there. And then to that, I'm going to add about 3½ tablespoons of crushed red pepper. And mix all this up. It smells really nice. Juniper berries smell great. And mix all that up. All right. Now again, I've got a bed of salt. Just regular, same salt I use for the prosciutto. On the bottom of my pot, I'm going to put my ham down. And actually, let me stand it up first. Get right in along this hock again. Just make a hole. Just peel the fat back with your hand. Stick your fingers in there. Yeah. Grab some cure. And again, you want to get 3 or 4 tablespoons down there. It goes down inside that hock. That's just going to travel down along that bone. And make sure that's cured up nice for you. The other thing when doing a country ham or a sweet ham like this, the sugar will offset some of the bitterness from the bite out of the salt. Again, rub this in. Don't just put it on there. Rub it right into the skin really good. And don't be cheap with it. And again, we're going to let this sit for about 5 days. And then we're going to repack it. Now you'll see the major difference with this rub from the rub we did earlier was that the rub we did earlier was basically just salt. This, I'm using a lot of sugar. Just remember, do not, you stuff it right in there. Get it in there good. Do not ever put more sugar than salt, because your ham will rot. You need that salt. The sugar is just to take away some of the harshness from the salt, but you can't replace the salt with it. You know what I mean? It's not the same. It's not going to cure your meat. It's just going to flavor. Get it right on there. It's going to flavor it up. Again, pack it nice, pack it good. Don't be stingy. Now is not the time to be stingy with this stuff. Right around that ball joint, good. Get it in there. Force it in the cracks. Force it right in there. And again, with this, we're doing the same thing. If you notice, if you look at this ham, it's touching the side of the container. Can't have that. Well, if you pull it apart, if you push from underneath, push salt up, and you see how the salt comes up? That's actually the salt is now, see the salt's squeezing right out of it? The salt is sitting against the container, the meat is sitting against the salt. So do that on both sides. Force the salt right up from the bottom so that the meat isn't touching the side of this container. Because if the meat's touching the side of the container, the cure isn't going to get to it. If the cure don't get to it, you're going to rot. So we've got the whole entire ham stuffed like the other one. Everything is in there nice. Now this is going to go to sleep for 5 days. Then I'm going to drain any liquid out of it. And I'm going to repack it in the same cure. And you look at this. When it's done, that's all you can see of the cap, of the ball joint. Just the top. Everything else is covered. See it right here? All around that is packed with salt and sugar cure. And that's what's going to travel up along that bone. Now you see there's a little fold here? Even under that fold is all sugar cure. You want to make sure that stuff is everywhere. Because if it isn't there, you're going to have mold. And mold, not all mold is bad. We're looking for a white, if it's furry, I don't care what color it is. If it's a hairy mold, it's no good. If it's a white powdery mold, that's what you want. That's perfect. There's no problem with that at all. But if it's any kind of a black mold or a green mold, black mold, throw it out. If it's black mold, don't even take a chance, just throw the piece in the trash. If it's a green mold, you can actually wipe it off with vinegar, a rag dipped in vinegar, and that rag dipped in vinegar will kill the mold. And then you can see if you can get rid of it that way. But a white powdery mold, that's okay. That's what you want. That's a good mold, and that's gonna keep the bad molds from growing. So anything that's colored, green or any mold you'd see on a cheese, you can take off with a rag dipped in vinegar. Anything that's black, throw it out. You don't even take a chance. All right, so this is going to go to sleep now. I'm going to put the cover on it, and this is going to go to bed for a week. I'll do 5 days, and then with these 20-something pounders, we're looking at a 10-day curing process. So in 5 days, we're going to pull it out. We're going to take the ham out, dump the liquid out, put new salt in, pack everything with this. We'll pack it with the same mix again and let it go. In 10 days, we'll come back, we'll take a look at this. Then we're going to wash the whole thing off, just warm water. I'm going to rinse it in red wine. I'm going to rub the whole thing down with red wine. And then I'm going to, for the country ham, I'll probably just net it. I've got some ham stock over there. I'll net it, then hang it. This will be ready in about six or 7 months. The prosciutto, I'm going to rub that down with a coating of black pepper and crushed red pepper. And I'll rub the whole thing down, I'll net that, and then I'll hang that. All right? So we'll be back in a little bit, and we'll check these in 10 days, and I'll see what they look like. All right? I'll see you then. Bye.